Alhamdulillah. In the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most gracious, the most merciful. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. There is a kind of loneliness that settles in the heart like a quiet storm. A woman sits in a room full of people, yet her heart feels unseen, unheard, untouched. She watches friendships form, laughter echo, connections deepen, and she wonders why the world feels so far away from her. She asks herself if something is wrong with her, if she is unworthy, if she is destined to walk alone. But what she cannot see is that her loneliness is not a curse. It is a call from the one who never leaves, the one who never grows tired, the one who never chooses someone else over her. Sometimes, when a heart is too surrounded by noise, Allah removes everyone around it, not to break it, but to rebuild it in a way only solitude can. A woman with no friends is not a woman without value. She is a woman being prepared to know herself without the mirrors of others, prepared to stand without needing hands she once begged for, prepared to find the strength she didn't know she carried. There are times when Allah isolates you because He wants to teach you who you are when no one is clapping, when no one is calling, when no one is validating your existence. He wants you to understand the difference between being alone and being lonely. Because the moment you turn toward Him, you realize you were never truly alone. Loneliness becomes lighter the moment you allow your heart to sit with Allah, not as a distant creator, but as the closest companion. When you speak to Him about the empty spaces inside you, you feel them filling with a peace that humans cannot give. When you tell Him about the ache of wanting someone to understand you, He sends comfort in ways that need no words. And when you finally realize He was enough all along, you stop seeking friendships that drain you, break you, or make you forget who you are. A woman with no friends is not behind in life. She is not forgotten. She is not less than others. She is simply in a season of protection, a season where Allah shields her from people who cannot walk with her to the next chapter of her life. And when the time is right, when the heart has healed and the soul has grown, Allah brings friendships that feel like mercy. People who remind you of Him. People who love you without taking pieces of you. People who stand with you not because they need something, but because your presence brings them closer to the one who made you. So if you are a woman with no friends, do not despair. This is not the end of your story. This is the moment you get to discover the most powerful friendship of all, the one between your heart and the one who created it. And from that friendship, everything else will come at the perfect time. You are seen, you are loved, you are never walking alone. The loneliness you feel is not a punishment, it is an invitation from Allah to rediscover yourself and your worth. Sometimes the heart goes through a silence so deep that it begins to echo. It feels the emptiness sharply, as though something vital is missing. You look around and see everyone moving in circles, circles of friendship, circles of laughter, circles of companionship, and you wonder why you are standing outside all of it. You wonder why people walk into each other's lives so easily, while your own life seems paused, quiet, untouched. But loneliness is not always the absence of people. Often, it is the absence of the connection your soul is truly craving. And Allah, in His infinite wisdom, sometimes removes the distractions around you so you can finally listen to what your heart has been whispering all along. Loneliness becomes a doorway not when you resist it, but when you walk through it with an open heart. If Allah wanted to punish you, He would have filled your life with people who drain you, betray you, and break you. He would have left you tied to relationships that suffocate your potential or silence your growth. But instead, He placed you in a season where the noise of the world dimmed and the voices around you faded. This is not cruelty, it is clarity. It is your Creator softening the world around you, so you can finally hear your own heartbeat and understand the worth He placed inside you. Many people spend their entire lives surrounded by others, but never once meet themselves. They cling to friendships out of fear, not love. They attach themselves to anyone who gives them attention because they cannot bear the silence of being alone. But there is a beauty in solitude that only a few souls ever experience. The beauty of discovering that your worth was never tied to someone else's presence. Your value was not created by friends, relationships, or social circles. It was created by Allah Himself, long before any human walked into your life. Loneliness gives you the space to rediscover that truth without interruption. When you sit alone with the quiet of your own thoughts, you begin to see yourself more honestly. You notice the things you ignored, the dreams you postponed, the wounds you hid, and the strengths you never recognized. Without the influence of others constantly shaping your identity, you are finally able to ask deeper questions. Who am I when no one is watching? What do I love when no one is telling me what I should love? What brings peace to my heart? What pains do I need to heal? What kind of person am I becoming? These questions do not arise when life is loud. They rise when Allah hands you solitude as a mirror, not to shame you, but to awaken you. Sometimes loneliness is a divine pause. Allah is not taking people away from you. He is taking you back to yourself. He is guiding you to a place within your own heart where you have not visited in years. He is showing you the parts of you that need comfort, nurturing, and validation, parts that no human being can truly mend. Loneliness becomes a lesson when you realize that the emptiness you feel is not a signal that something is missing outside of you, but that something inside needs attention. And there is a secret inside this experience. If loneliness pushes you toward Allah, it is not a hardship, it is a gift. Every quiet night, every empty room, every moment you felt unseen was actually a moment where He was inviting you closer. A moment designed not to break you, but to bring you back to the one who knows you more deeply than any friend ever could. Loneliness becomes lighter when you stop viewing it as abandonment and start viewing it as alignment. Allah aligns you with yourself before He aligns you with others. He teaches you how to stand on your own before He brings people who can stand with you. And sometimes He waits until your heart knows its own worth, so that when people finally come into your life, you do not shrink yourself to fit into their expectations. There is nothing wrong with you because you walk through seasons of solitude. Every soul destined for depth is first taken through a corridor of isolation. It is in that quiet space that you learn patience, resilience, self-respect, and spiritual intimacy. It is where you stop trying to prove yourself to the world and start discovering the value Allah already wrote into your existence. Your loneliness is not Allah turning away from you. It is Allah turning you towards something greater, something purer, something that awakens your heart and strengthens your soul. And when you embrace this phase instead of resenting it, you begin to blossom in ways you never expected. You become a woman who knows her worth, not because others see it, but because Allah placed it within her. You become someone who no longer fears being alone because you have tasted the sweetness of being held directly by the one who created you. This is not a punishment. It is a transformation. And when this transformation is complete, you will look back and realize that loneliness was not the emptiness you thought it was. It was the space Allah cleared so you could finally meet the most important person in your life, yourself. Sometimes Allah removes people from your life so you can hear His voice more clearly. This is a truth many hearts only discover after experiencing a painful separation, a sudden silence, or an unexpected loss of companionship. We often believe that the presence of people in our lives is what keeps us whole, stable, or emotionally grounded. We place pieces of our happiness into their hands, trusting that they will remain, that they will care, that they will stay true. But the world is always shifting, always changing, and the people who are with us today are not guaranteed to be with us tomorrow. When they leave, it feels like the fabric of your life is tearing, but what feels like loss to you may be, in reality, divine protection. Sometimes Allah pulls people away not because He wants to hurt you, but because He wants to save you from future pain, from emotional dependence, from misplaced trust, from a path that would have harmed your heart more deeply later. And sometimes He pulls them away because their voices have grown louder in your life than His. You begin to seek comfort from them more than from Him. You seek approval from them more than from Him. You rely on them so heavily that you forget the one who has been carrying you long before any human knew your name. So Allah, in His mercy, shakes your life just enough to remind you who your true guardian is. When a person leaves, their absence creates a silence. At first, the silence feels unbearable. You fill it with memories, questions, and 1,000 whys that have no answers. But with time, the silence becomes a space where your heart begins to hear things it was too distracted to notice before. You start noticing your own emotional needs that were hidden under the noise of that relationship. You start noticing the peace that comes from turning inward instead of outward. And most importantly, you begin to hear the voice of your Creator guiding you gently, whispering to your heart, bringing you clarity that no human being could ever provide. When Allah removes someone, He is not robbing you of companionship. He is redirecting you to Himself. And the heart that learns to listen to His voice becomes stronger, wiser, and more peaceful than it ever was. You start to understand that people come with their limitations. They can misunderstand you, disappoint you, abandon you, or walk away without explanation. But Allah never does. His presence does not fluctuate with mood. His love does not weaken with time. His support does not disappear when you need it most. When everyone else becomes distant, He becomes closer. When others close their doors, He opens the door that truly matters, the one that leads you back to Him. There is a subtle beauty in having fewer voices around you. Humans speak, but Allah guides. Humans comfort, but Allah heals. Humans promise, but only Allah fulfills. And when the world grows quiet, you begin to sense the nearness of the one who has always been by your side, the one who writes every chapter of your life with intention, wisdom, and mercy. You begin to understand that His voice is not heard through sound, but through signs, through the peace that settles after a heartbreak, through the clarity that comes after confusion, through the doors that close and the new paths that open. Sometimes you cannot hear the direction Allah is trying to send you because you are too busy listening to people who don't even know themselves. You cling to their opinions, their expectations, their approval, their presence. But when He removes them, the fog lifts. You start to see life from a higher, clearer perspective. You realize that you were relying too much on someone whose heart was never meant to carry the weight of your emotions. You realize that you were giving someone a place in your life that only Allah deserves, the place of ultimate trust, ultimate reliance, ultimate comfort. And then something shifts. What once felt like abandonment begins to feel like liberation. The pain that once felt unbearable begins to feel purposeful. The silence that once felt heavy begins to feel sacred. In that silence, you begin to rebuild yourself. Not the version of you that needed constant reassurance, but the version of you that stands firmly because her foundation is Allah, not people. You begin to experience a kind of strength that does not come from your own will, but from surrendering to His. Loss becomes a message. Separation becomes a lesson, and your heart becomes a place where divine wisdom settles more easily than before. You learn that when Allah takes something away, it is never to leave you empty. It is to create room for something better, purer, more aligned with your soul. And sometimes the better is not a person. Sometimes the better is your relationship with Him. So when people leave, do not panic. Do not chase. Do not crumble. Sit quietly with the pain, and you will begin to hear what you could not hear before: the guidance, the reassurance, the love, the closeness of a Lord who never leaves. People may abandon you, but Allah never does. And when He removes a voice from your life, it is so you can finally hear the only voice that will never misguide you, the voice of His mercy speaking directly to your heart. Solitude can become the birthplace of strength, clarity, and spiritual awakening. There are moments in life when a person finds herself alone, not because she chose it, and not because she is unworthy of companionship, but because Allah has pulled her into a quiet space for reasons her heart has not yet learned to understand. Solitude often arrives gently, like a slow sunset, or abruptly, like a door closing behind you. At first it feels uncomfortable. The silence feels foreign, the stillness feels heavy, and the absence of people feels like a void you do not know how to fill. But solitude is never empty. It is full of messages, lessons, and invitations from Allah that can only be heard when the noise of the world fades. There is a hidden strength that grows in isolation, a strength you cannot access when you are constantly surrounded by people. When you are alone, you begin to see what remains after every distraction is removed. You discover what parts of you were real, what parts were shaped by others, and what parts need healing. Solitude strips away the layers that were never truly yours, the expectations you carried just to be accepted, the versions of yourself you created to fit in. In the quiet, you meet your true self, raw, unfiltered, and honest. And that self is the one Allah wants you to know. Strength is not built in crowds. It is built in the silent conversations you have with your soul when no one else is around. It is built when you force yourself to sit with emotions you used to run from. It is built when you learn to comfort your own heart without depending on someone else to rescue you. It is built when you turn to Allah not because you have no one else, but because you finally understand that He is the one you needed all along. Clarity also finds its way to you in solitude. When you are constantly surrounded by people, their voices mix with your own thoughts. Their expectations drown out your intuition. Their presence fills up the spaces where reflection should live. But when Allah places you in a phase of solitude, it is like He clears the fog from your path. You begin to see situations with new eyes. You begin to see yourself more accurately. You begin to understand why certain things had to happen the way they did, why certain people left, why certain dreams collapsed, and why certain doors refused to open. Clarity is not loud. It arrives softly, like light spreading across a dark room. It arrives when you least expect it, in a quiet morning, in a whispered dua, in a moment of honesty with your own heart. And in solitude, clarity becomes a gift that transforms confusion into wisdom. You begin to sort your priorities. You begin to recognize what deserves your energy and what does not. You begin to see which relationships were genuine and which were holding you back. You begin to recognize your own patterns, your own mistakes, and your own potential to grow past them. But perhaps the most beautiful part of solitude is the spiritual awakening it brings. When the world around you becomes quiet, the presence of Allah becomes louder. The distractions that pulled your heart in different directions fall away. The attachments that once felt so essential begin to lose their grip, and suddenly you find yourself drawn toward the one who has been calling you gently through every hardship, every loss, every moment of loneliness. Solitude becomes a sanctuary where you can reconnect with Him in ways you couldn't when life was crowded. You begin to speak to Him more freely, more sincerely, with a heart that is no longer divided. You learn that Allah listens to you in the stillness. You learn that He understands you without explanation. You learn that He comforts you in ways no human being ever could. You begin to feel His closeness in small, quiet moments, in the ease you feel after crying, in the peace that settles after making dua, in the strength that arrives after a difficult night. You begin to realize that this solitude is not loneliness at all. It is a spiritual retreat arranged by the one who loves you most. Solitude teaches you that you can survive what you once thought would break you. It teaches you that your worth is not dependent on who stays or who leaves. It teaches you that your happiness is not something others can give or take. It is something that grows from within when your heart is anchored to Allah. It teaches you to trust the timing of your life, to accept the seasons you do not understand, and to believe that every quiet phase is preparing you for a louder, brighter story ahead. And when the period of solitude ends, because it always does, you walk out of it different, not weaker, not wounded, but awakened. You walk out with a clearer heart, a sharper mind, and a deeper connection to your Creator. You walk out with the kind of strength that does not need to prove itself. You walk out with the kind of clarity that makes you choose wisely. You walk out with the kind of spiritual grounding that keeps you steady no matter who enters or exits your life. Solitude may feel like a pause, but in reality, it is transformation. And every moment spent in that quiet space is Allah preparing you for something greater, something more aligned, something worthy of the person you are becoming. Your value is not measured by who chooses you, but by the one who created you. This is a truth many people know in theory, yet struggle to believe deep inside their hearts. We live in a world where worth is often measured by attention, friends, popularity, validation, and social acceptance. A woman might look around and feel something is missing in her life simply because others are surrounded by people while she stands alone. She may question her worth because someone didn't stay, someone didn't see her value, or someone chose someone else over her. But the reality is that people do not determine your value. Their presence or absence does not define you. Their choices do not reflect your worth. Your Creator does. Human beings are limited and their perception is limited. They see only fragments of who you are, a moment, a habit, a reaction, a chapter. They do not see the entire story of your heart. They do not see your sincerity, your intentions, your struggles, your growth. They do not see the battles you fought silently or the tears you wiped alone. They do not see the weight you carry behind your smile. Only Allah sees all of that. Only He knows the depth of your soul. Only He understands the unseen parts of you that no one else will ever truly comprehend. So how can the judgment of people who see only the surface define the value of a heart that Allah Himself created with purpose and beauty? When someone overlooks you, it is not a sign that you are insufficient. It is a sign that their vision is too limited to recognize what Allah has placed within you. When someone chooses to walk away, it does not reduce your worth. It reveals their inability to appreciate it. And when someone fails to acknowledge your presence, it does not mean you are invisible. It simply means Allah is redirecting your heart to a place where it will be valued fully, not partially. Your worth was written before any human opinion existed. When Allah created you, He placed honor within you, He gave you dignity, He breathed into you a soul that carries His divine design. Your value is inherent, not earned through approval, not enhanced by attention, and not diminished by rejection. No one can strip from you what Allah placed within you. Sometimes Allah hides your value from certain people because they are not meant to walk with you. If they saw your worth, they might cling to you for the wrong reasons, or they might harm your heart without realizing its fragility. Sometimes Allah removes certain relationships because they are distracting you from seeing yourself through His eyes. And sometimes He places you in seasons where you feel unseen, so you can stop trying to be seen by the world and begin to be seen by Him. There is a unique beauty in being known by Allah. When you stop measuring yourself by the standards of people, you start breathing differently. You stop begging for acceptance. You stop chasing attention. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into spaces not meant for you. You begin to understand that the one who molded your heart is the only one who has the right to define you. When Allah says you are honored, you are honored. When He says you are forgiven, you are forgiven. When He says you matter, you matter. No human being, no friend, no relationship, no stranger has the power to undo what Allah has written about you. This realization frees you from emotional dependence. It frees you from the need to please everyone. It frees you from the fear of being alone, because your worth is not something others give to you. It is something Allah placed within you the moment He created you. You begin to walk differently when you understand this. You begin to hold your head higher, not out of arrogance, but out of gratitude. You begin to choose yourself without guilt, because you know Allah never intended for you to live your life begging for the validation of those who cannot even validate themselves. You begin to protect your peace, your heart, your boundaries, because you understand their value. And you begin to attract relationships that reflect the worth Allah placed within you, not those that drain it. The woman who knows her worth through Allah does not crumble when someone leaves, because she knows her value remains unchanged. She does not shatter when someone rejects her, because she understands her story is written by the one who never rejects. She does not feel inferior to those who surround themselves with people, because she knows that real worth has nothing to do with numbers and everything to do with the heart. And when the right people come into her life, people who see her value, honor her presence, respect her boundaries, and love her for the sake of Allah, she understands that these are not random friendships. These are gifts placed in her life at the right time, because she first learned to anchor her worth in the one who created her. Your value is not fragile. It is not hanging on the decisions of others. It is not dependent on the company you keep. It is rooted in Allah, eternal, unshakable, and deeply honored. And when you finally understand this, loneliness stops feeling like a verdict. It begins to feel like protection, preparation, and purification. Because the moment you stop letting people define your worth, you start allowing Allah to reveal it. Loneliness ends the moment you befriend your soul through Allah, not people. There is a deep misconception many hearts carry, the belief that loneliness disappears when someone enters your life, when a friend gives you attention, when a relationship grows, or when you finally become part of a social circle. But the truth is that loneliness does not end when people arrive. Sometimes you can have dozens of people around you and still feel an emptiness that no human presence can touch. Loneliness ends when the heart connects to something beyond the temporary, beyond the fragile, beyond the inconsistent nature of human relationships. Loneliness ends when your soul finds companionship in the one who created it. There are women who spend years searching for friends who will understand them, cherish them, stay loyal to them, and fill the gaps inside their hearts. They attach their sense of belonging to the presence of others. But the problem with this attachment is that people are unpredictable. Their moods shift, their priorities change, their love fluctuates, their loyalty is not always stable, and their understanding is limited. When you tie your entire sense of emotional safety to someone whose heart is always shifting, you set yourself up for disappointment. You place your peace in a vessel that cannot hold it. But when you befriend your soul through Allah, something inside you transforms. Your heart begins to feel full in a way that is not dependent on who stays or who leaves. You begin to walk through life with an inner companionship that never abandons you. You feel connected even when you are physically alone. You feel supported even when you have no one to talk to. You feel held even when life feels heavy. This is because the soul was never designed to be fulfilled by people. It was designed to be fulfilled by Allah. Befriending your soul means learning to enjoy your own company, not because you are self-sufficient, but because you are spiritually connected. It means learning to sit in silence without fear, knowing that you are not alone in that silence. It means learning to comfort your own heart with reminders from Allah instead of waiting for someone else to soothe your wounds. It means building an inner world so peaceful, so rooted, so deeply nourished by faith that you no longer fear the seasons where people are absent. When you befriend your soul, you begin to talk to it gently. You stop blaming it for feeling too deeply. You stop criticizing it for wanting meaningful connections. Instead, you begin to guide your soul toward the one who will never betray its longing. You learn to say, "My peace is with Allah." And slowly the emptiness begins to dissolve, not because someone filled it, but because Allah did. Loneliness ends when you understand that the deepest companionship is the companionship of Allah. When you walk with Him, the world becomes less frightening. The nights become less heavy. The future becomes less intimidating. You carry a certainty inside your chest, the certainty that you are supported, protected, and guided even when no one else is around. This certainty brings a kind of comfort that no friendship, no relationship, no human bond can replicate. Many women feel lonely because they believe they need others to validate their existence. They compare their lives with those who have large groups of friends, constant social interactions, and endless connections. But sometimes Allah keeps your circle small because He wants your connection with Him to be strong. Sometimes He limits your interactions because He is shaping you internally before He brings the right people externally. Sometimes He protects you from friendships that would have led you away from Him, and sometimes He simply loves you too much to let your heart depend on anyone more than Him. When you befriend your soul, you begin to cultivate habits that nourish your inner world. You talk to Allah throughout the day, not only in prayer, but in moments of stress, moments of quiet, moments of joy. You seek His comfort before you seek anyone else's. You share your secrets with Him, knowing He never judges. You cry to Him, knowing He never tires. You trust Him, knowing He never disappoints. And in that process, you begin to heal the parts of you that once felt so alone. You also begin to understand yourself better. You notice your emotions instead of suppressing them. You honor your sensitivity instead of seeing it as a weakness. You treat your heart as something precious instead of something fragile. You become kinder to yourself because you realize that Allah created your soul with intention, with wisdom, and with love. And a soul created with love deserves to be treated with love. The loneliness that once felt heavy begins to lighten because now your heart is anchored. Now your soul has a home. Now your worth is not based on how many people choose you, but on the one who never leaves you. And when you finally feel whole within yourself, friendships no longer become a source of survival, they become a source of joy. You no longer cling to people out of fear, you no longer tolerate disrespect just to avoid being alone. You no longer shrink yourself to fit into someone else's world, because you already have a world within you, a world illuminated by faith, strengthened by solitude, and held by the companionship of Allah. This is when loneliness truly ends, not when people fill your life, but when Allah fills your heart. The right friendships arrive when you stop settling for companionship that weakens your heart. There comes a point in every woman's life when she must pause and look honestly at the people she surrounds herself with. Not every friendship is good for the soul. Not every companionship brings peace. Not every person who stands beside you deserves a place close to your heart. Yet sometimes, out of fear of loneliness, we allow people into our lives who drain our energy, blur our clarity, and chip away at our self-worth. We settle for relationships that exhaust us simply because we fear the emptiness that might come without them. But Allah, in His wisdom, often removes such people because He knows that weakness disguised as friendship can silently break you from within. There are women who stay in shallow friendships because they feel safer with anyone, than being alone. They tolerate disrespect, indifference, or emotional distance because they believe that having something is better than having nothing. But this mindset slowly damages the heart. Companionship that weakens your faith, your self-esteem, or your sense of worth is not companionship at all. It is a distraction wrapped in comfort. And until you let go of these weak connections, your heart remains too cluttered to receive the kind of friendships Allah intends for you. The right friendships require space. Space in your heart, space in your life, space in your emotional world. When your heart is filled with people who take far more than they give, there is no room left for those who are meant to uplift you. This is why Allah sometimes closes the doors you desperately try to keep open. He removes people you begged Him to keep. He distances you from those you thought you needed. He allows misunderstandings, separations, and endings to occur, not because He wants to hurt you, but because He wants to free you. Free you from settling. Free you from low standards. Free you from the habit of accepting companionship that diminishes you. When you stop settling, your heart begins to heal. It begins to filter what it once tolerated. It begins to recognize the difference between presence and connection, between being accompanied and being valued. A woman who stops settling learns to walk alone with dignity rather than walk with others who don't know how to respect her. She learns to choose peace over company, sincerity over popularity, and depth over convenience. Her solitude becomes a season of inner purification, preparing her for friendships that mirror the goodness she carries within herself. The right friendships do not arrive randomly. They arrive when you rise to a level where you can recognize them, appreciate them, and maintain them. They arrive when your heart is strong enough to be selective, when your boundaries are firm, when your self-respect is unshakable. A woman who knows her worth is not afraid of being alone. She understands that loneliness with dignity is better than companionship that comes with emotional instability. She knows that Allah does not burden her with solitude. He blesses her with protection until the right souls come along. And when those souls do come, something inside you immediately senses it. The friendship feels light, not heavy. It brings peace, not tension. It encourages your growth, not your insecurity. Good friends do not compete with you, belittle you, or make you feel replaceable. They remind you of Allah. They guide you gently. They support you in private and defend you in public. They celebrate your successes with sincerity and stand by you in your struggles with compassion. These friendships are not accidental. They are gifts written in your destiny, But there is a condition. You must first stop settling. You must stop accepting conversations that leave you feeling empty. You must stop chasing people who never chase you back. You must stop finding comfort in people who make your heart anxious. The moment you raise your standards, not out of arrogance but out of self-respect, you open the door to a new level of companionship that aligns with your soul. The right friendships often come after loss, after heartbreak, after painful endings, after years of trial and error. Allah sometimes takes you through a long journey of encountering the wrong people so that when the right ones arrive, you appreciate them deeply. You no longer take loyalty for granted. You no longer ignore red flags. You no longer confuse attention with sincerity. You have learned enough through hardship to recognize the light when it finally enters your life, and it will enter. Allah does not leave a sincere heart without support. When you stop settling, He sends people who reflect the values you've built within yourself, people who stand with you in faith, in growth, in resilience, people who speak goodness into your life, people who remind you of your worth even when you forget it, people who love you for His sake, not for what you can offer them. Until these friendships arrive, Allah wants you to rely on Him. He wants you to find peace in His companionship first. He wants you to build a heart that is full before it is shared, a heart that is strong before it is vulnerable, a heart that is content before it is connected. Because when you enter friendships from a place of wholeness, not desperation, you choose differently, you choose wisely, you choose with clarity, not fear. The right friendships are written for you. They are part of your destiny, but they arrive only when you stop settling for the kind of companionship that weakens your heart. And once you understand this, you will walk through life with more confidence, more peace, and more trust in Allah's timing, knowing that whoever is meant for you will come, and whoever left you was never meant to stay. As we reach the end of this journey, this reflection on the rise of Islam, the awakening of hearts, and the return of a dignity that was never truly lost, I want you to pause for a moment and feel what is happening around you. Something powerful is unfolding in the world. Something unshakable, something divine. Islam is not just rising politically or socially, it is rising within the hearts of people who were once broken, lost, confused, or forgotten. It is rising in the souls of those who searched for truth in a world filled with noise and finally found silence in the remembrance of Allah. It is rising in those who once felt small but rediscovered their worth through the one who never abandons his servants. The world is terrified not because Islam is violent or harsh, but because it cannot control what Allah Himself strengthens. It cannot silence the truth. It cannot dim a light that Allah has ignited. The more attempts there are to suppress Islam, the more it spreads like dawn breaking across a horizon, slow, steady, and unstoppable. But this rise is not just a global movement. It is happening in you, in your heart, in your home, in your thoughts, in your courage, in your choices. Every time you turn back to Allah, every time you silence your ego, every time you choose forgiveness over revenge, patience over anger, faith over fear, Islam rises again. You are part of this awakening. Your resilience is part of this story. Your healing is part of this victory. Your struggles, your tears, your prayers whispered late at night, all of them are signs that Allah is rebuilding you from the inside out. He is shaping you into a stronger believer, a woman of clarity, dignity, and spiritual vision. He is teaching you that your worth is not tied to the world but to Him, and when you anchor yourself to Allah, nothing in this world can shake you. The rise of Islam is not about dominating others. It is about elevating ourselves. It is about returning to the character of the Prophet, to mercy, to justice, to compassion, to truth. It is about becoming people who heal rather than harm, who uplift rather than crush, who illuminate rather than darken. And when we embody the beauty of this deen, the world will see the truth not through our arguments, but through our light. So as you walk away from this speech, I leave you with this reminder: you are not alone. Allah is with you. Every struggle you face is seen. Every effort you make is written. Every hardship you endure is shaping you. The world may be trembling at the rise of Islam, but you, believer, should stand tall, because this rise is your rise too. Hold your faith tightly, protect your heart. Surround yourself with people who remind you of Allah, and step into the world knowing that you were created for a purpose far higher than fear. Islam is rising again, and so are you. May Allah make you among those who carry His light with humility, with courage, with sincerity, and with unwavering trust in His plan. Wa assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.